Hey, how you doing? So you're interested in playing this game, or maybe you already play, or maybe you just wanted something to watch. Whatever the reason is, in this video I will explain the game in general aspects that might interest you, or something like that. I'm Q, and I've been playing this game since the beta, so I kinda understand the gist of the game. First of all, you have to understand that this is an MMO, so expect traditional MMO mechanics like ultra rare drops, abysmal XP requirements to level up at high levels, and a job system that feels like a real job. I mean, at least the gameplay is really fun if you enjoy turn-based tactical RPGs. So if you can overlook the bad aspects that I already warned you about, welcome to Wakfu. Also, before I forget, the in-game economy is really important if you want to optimize, so have that in mind. Before explaining the game, I got to disclose that the game has two different servers, three if you are French, that are like different worlds. The difference between these servers is something that you have to know before getting too deep in the game. So first, we have Rubilax, the old school and ancient server that was born because of the merging of every server that wasn't the French server. This is, of course, the oldest server, therefore there are more items and more importantly, money circulating. The important thing that you have to know about this server is it is a multi-account server, so you can use more than one account to play. This is really important because if you struggle to socialize and work with other human beings, you can potentially play the whole game by yourself. It will take a lot more work than to play with others, but hey, the option is there. The other server is August. This is the newest server of them all. Because of that, it hasn't suffered too much inflation in its economy. In my opinion, it is the best server to rack up some money, I guess. The important thing about August is that it is a mono account server, so you will be able to play only with one account at a time, so playing alone without socializing is not advised. Also, the game has a hero system that lets you play with 3 characters at the same time, but that system is not present in this server. So yeah, in short, if you like going alone, playing on Rubilax, if you can socialize well, play on August. Okay, then let's start with important bits and pieces of the game, shall we? Then let's go into...
This place here changes a man.
Oh yeah, in what way?
I used to be
Craw.
Yeah, the races. Let's call them classes so I don't get into trouble. They define the roles that you may take in the adventure. Some classes are more versatile than others, and you have to take into account that you can change your play style rather easily in this game, unless you invest on expensive gear. If you do that, it is better to just commit. It is important that you understand what each role does. The damager does damage, the tank tanks damage, the positioner positions, the healer heals, the support supports. Okay, with that out of the way, yeah, I'm not gonna explain that. It is like basic knowledge in the RPGs. Like, the only role that I guess you wouldn't understand is the positioner, and the only thing that you need to know about that role is that it is a type of support that moves allies and enemies alike to facilitate the damage or heals. Also, the positioner can be a damager or healer or tank. You know, team composition in this game is really complex. I don't know if I even understand it, so let's go with a simple system to categorize the roles. Let's go with damage, tank, support. How about that? Okay, you cannot communicate with me because this is a video, but I'm going to pretend that you agree with me. If it is your first time playing a tactical game, I would suggest classes that are rather straightforward on the gameplay. Of course, you don't need to go with these ones, but I would advise using them. Or you could go with whatever looks cool. That's usually a good metric. Okay, then let's start with this one, the Kra. If you look classical depiction of elves, this one's for you. A damager that specializes in distance. It has good crowd control and range. It is easy to deal damage while being outside the reach of enemies. Usually the crab plays as a damager, but you can also play as a pseudo support if you focus on debuffing enemies' movement and position. As a crab, I think it is almost impossible to tank or function as a healer. I mean, it doesn't even have a healing spell. This Ram. Do you know what an assassin is? Okay, great. Ram is kinda the assassin of the game. It deals a ton of damage and can maintain itself fighting more than you would think. The playstyle of this ROM is simple on paper, but it gets a little bit more complex once you are playing the class, especially at higher levels. It serves as a good damager, and maybe you can use him as a tank. Don't side me on that one though. If you are going for SRAM, you better try to kill enemies. Yuginak. The Barbarian, simple damage, good tools, great tanking potential, makes it necessary to disclose that you are not a furry, unless you are a furry. The dog is really balanced in quite a few ways, but that doesn't mean that it is versatile. As I said, these classes are straightforward in the gameplay department. The dog hits and tanks, that's it, unless Anugi main tells you that it is one of the most complex classes in the game, the poison, the armor, yada yada. If that happens, you just agree. The Ripsa. If you're a girl, you're cute. If you're a boy, you're a femboy. The go-to support and healer of the game. The Annie can usually just fill the role of support, but it fills it really well. In my opinion, every team should have an Annie. This is the class that can get you from 1% HP to 100% in a turn, or from 0%, because it is one of the few classes that can use a revival spell. If you play in Ogres, expect to find parties rather quickly. The Sacrier. This is the berserker of the game. It can tank and deal a huge amount of damage. In my opinion, Sakura is really a simple class to play. You can go full ape mode and play your turn in 3 seconds. But in reality, Sakura has a complexity that differs from the other classes. You have to be mindful of your limits at all times, because you will spend your HP as a resource, and it is easy to miss a 0 and die in a couple turns even though you are the one with more HP and resistances in the party. This class looks cool though. The Pandawa. This is a weird one. The Panda is somehow a versatile class that can fulfill a couple roles. It is, in my opinion, the best support for positioning. It can deal some damage, tank, heal, and that. The thing is, the Panda, at the time of me recording this video, hasn't been reworked with the new system, so it will feel different from the other classes. I would advise not to play Panda, even though it is a good class. So those were the simple classes of the game. Let's move into classes that have mechanics a bit more complex. Oh yeah, when I say that the classes are more complex, I don't mean they are better, so keep that in mind. The Yop. This was the Barbarian before the Uginak, but with the reworks, he is more of a warrior that has to use at least 2 neurons to play. It has a cool combo system that lets you benefit from your superior intelligence, even though they are canonically the more idiotic race of the whole world. It has crazy damage potential, but the complexity lays on your ability to string combos together, and the more important part of the Yop, the timing. You have to know when to go all in with the damage. The Yob is a good class that can serve as a damager or a decent tank. The Feka. Do you like tanking? Do you enjoy supporting your team's survivability? The Feka is exactly that. Shields, resistances, buffs. The Feka is the perfect tank that benefits from the armor mechanic. It is a perfect support, tank, and you are not gonna believe this. The Feka can dish good damage. With this one, you will have to be extra mindful of your resources. The Osamodas. Do you like Pokemon? This class can capture monsters and use them as companions in battle. The Osa is a really neat class that is really versatile on its builds. You can go damager, support, tank, healer, whatever you want. You will need to understand the class and a lot of weird interaction in its kit though, but if you're willing to learn, you will have a great time. The Sarida. If you like summoning stuff, but the Osa doesn't convince you, you can go Sarida. It has dolls, and it is as versatile as the Osa. In my opinion, the Sarida is better for controlling the battlefield because it can control up to 3 summons. The Osa can only use 1 at a time, potentially 2. The Gub Gub doesn't count. The Sarida can be a really good option if you are going solo, because you can be the damager and support of your own army of 1 or 4. The Heliotrope. This is a class that relies a lot on positioning. You can summon portals where you and your allies can move around. The Heliotrope works mainly as a support on lower levels because the damage potential that it has, it is not really good. But hey, you can kite enemies easily on those stages of the game. On the higher level content though, the Heliotrope is more than capable of doing damage. The Anodroph. I'm not going to lie to you. I barely play the Anu that exists today. I know it has a really good damage potential and can buff allies damage, and also that it can hit a lot of times if you manage it properly. I think it is mainly a damager with good AoE. It also has a cute dog. The Masquerader. If you look at the graph of the Masquerader, you would think that this is the best class of the game. I mean, it is alright. it can do everything, but in my opinion, it feels wrong. I don't know why, but I just don't like the gameplay of the mask. It has a mechanic where you have to alternate between different masks to dedicate yourself to different roles. And also you have to play twice because you can create a clone of yourself that can do everything that you can. In my opinion, it is one of the hardest classes to get used to, but it also looks kinda cool and has big potential. The Roach. Oh yeah, baby. Explosions, guns, crime, and knives. What else do you need? Okay, the Roach is definitely a complex pick. If you play alone, the gameplay is quite simple. Summon bombs, do damage, explode everything. With a team, it becomes really difficult. You have to be mindful of your position, the enemy's position in a couple turns, and your allies' positioning. It also is the only class in the game that benefits the same from distance and melee combat. With the other classes, you will usually decide a playstyle between fighting from afar or fighting on top of enemies. The Roach does both. The spells that you can use are like gadgets, and you have to be smart about how you use them. A bad turn can be extra bad. Okay, those were the classes that are decently complex. Now let's get into the good stuff. Classes that are really complex to use. The type of class that you should not play, unless you are interested in them. Let's go from less complex to awfully difficult. The Eka Flip. Some people might say that Eka is not that complex at all. The thing is, with Eka you are not only battling the enemy, you are also in a battle against your own luck. If you love testing your luck, the Eka Flip can be a good pick. It has good damage, supporting potential, and I guess you could tank hits if you're lucky. With Eka you definitely can play safe, but playing risky is usually the best option. The main mechanic of the cat is the tarot. On top of your normal spell deck, you have the tarot deck and get spells at random. You can potentially manipulate the deck if you're smart enough, like counting cards on poker. The Foggernaut. Terminator. That's it. Nah, I'm joking. I mean, it is not that far from the class. It has a special type of damage that takes advantage of the weakness of the enemy and can hit really hard. It can redirect damage and it has a cool turret thingy. It also can summon rails on the ground to move efficiently, and you can also become a turret. The damage potential of the Fogger is seriously crazy. It does rely on positioning and you have to use the right tools at the right time. I guess going damage with the Fogger is more complex than going tank though. So if you think of going Fogger tank, consider it simpler. The Hopper Mage. You know, in this game, there are 4 elements: fire, water, earth, and wind. Every class has access to only 3 elements and has 15 elemental spells. The Hopper Mage has access to every single element and has a selection of 20 elemental spells. I mean, some of those spells can change the elemental damage, but whatever. The main mechanic of the Hopper Mage is dealing damage in whatever element it wants. It has a special mechanic of elemental runes. Whatever the Hopper Mage uses an elemental spell, it generates runes and can do a variety of stuff with those runes. This class can be an excellent damager because it can target any elemental weakness, and it can also work as a support. Have in mind that it's kinda hard to understand the interaction of some spells, and sometimes you will time out on your turn. The Seller. If a friend that plays the game recommends you this class to start playing, that person is not your friend. The Seller is, in my opinion, the hardest class to play in the game. You need to carefully manage your resources and do some quantum physics to do damage. Of course, you can manage to deal a lot of damage and position everyone where you want, but mark my words, you will work for that. Not only managing resources, you have to manage micro movements, be wary of what turn it is, position mechanisms, and a ton of stuff. If you like mental work and want to read these spells every time you use them, well, play Settler. It also looks cool as hell. I think those are all the classes in the game. So yeah, pick whatever fills your role or piques your interest. You can always change classes in the tutorial island before level 30. So let's continue with the next important part. You know, stats in RPGs are really important. I mean, a lot of RPG games are made of stat checks. In this game, it is important to understand stats at least a bit for building purposes. In my opinion, this game does a good job explaining stats on the character's page, but some people cannot read and some stats are a bit confusing, so let me talk about them for a bit. First, how do you get stats in this game? There are a couple of ways that you can get stats. The main ones are equipment and attribution points. You get equipment killing monsters, crafting, and using the market. You get attribution points whenever you level up. The thing is, leveling up just gives you a little bit of base HP, your spells get slight improvements on the numbers, and you get a whopping 1 attribution point to spend. How does the attribution system work? Well, whenever you level up, you get a point on a specific category between intelligence, strength, agility, fortune, and major. Your first level up gives you a point in intelligence, the next level gives you a point in strength, and so on and so forth. It cycles. The exemption is the major. You get a point on specific level thresholds. This is because the improvements that you can get on the major category are, of course, major. So let me give you a short description for each stat. Ready? Okay, let's go. HP. If it reaches 0, you are out of combat for 3 turns. If you stay out of combat for those turns, you die. You're gonna be revived by some allies that have a revival spell. Starting HP at level 1 is 60. Every level, you get 10 more base HP. AP. Action points. These are the points you spend to use spells. These points recharge at the end of your turn and can be removed by certain spells. MP. Movement points. You use these to move. They recharge like AP and can also be removed by enemies. Also, some classes can use them for spells. WP. Wakfu points. Special points that don't recharge at the start of your turn. Every class has a different way to regenerate them and are usually used on impactful spells. Super mages have QB instead because they are pretentious and don't like universal mechanics. Elemental mastery, percentage that amplifies the damage of elemental spells. Be sure to invest in the right elements because earth mastery does not improve your fire damage. Elemental resistance, like elemental mastery but for stopping damage. The percentage is important, not the whole number. You have to know that the bigger your elemental resistance number is, the less benefit you get. It is a really important stat. Don't sleep on it. Damage inflicted, percentage of extra damage, big damage improvements. Critical hit, the chance you have to hit a crit. Crits on this game give you 25% more damage, though it affects the base damage of the spells, so take that into account for their calculus. Initiative, hard to explain. In short, bigger number makes you start first. The medium of the whole team dictates what team goes first, then the order is alternate between teams. Dodge, bigger number lets you run away from enemies you have in contact without losing MP or AP. Lock, bigger number prevents enemies from running away without losing MP or AP. The bigger the difference between the person that locks lock and the one that dodges dodge, the bigger the MP and AP sanctions. Force of will, or will for short. If your will is superior of the will of the enemy, you can easily remove MP or AP from them. Likewise, it is harder to get your MP and AP removed. Heals perform, like damage inflicted but for heals. Block, like crits but to mitigate damage. It makes you resist 20% more of the damage, really nice. Range, some spells benefit from this, some do not. Gives you more range, duh. Critical mastery, get more damage from critical hits. The number here gets added to elemental masteries. Rear mastery, you spank enemies harder from the back. The number here gets added to elemental masteries. Melee mastery, more damage if the enemy is at 2 spaces or less from you. The number gets added to elemental mastery. Distance mastery, same as melee but 3 spaces or more from you. Healing mastery, more heals whenever you heal. Be mindful, healing in this game works taking into account a lot of stuff like damage. So this is not the mastery that you will always want if you are a support that heals. Always look and compare stuff. Berserk mastery, damage that is only taken into account whenever your character is lower than 50% HP. Mind that you have to be lower, so 49% and below, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The number gets added to elemental mastery. Critical resistance, gives you more resistance whenever you are hit with a crit. Really situational but useful in some dungeons, I guess. Rear resistance, your cheeks get harder, giving you resistance to attacks from the back. In my opinion, really useful, especially if you consider that rear attacks deal 25% more damage. Armor given, you give more armor to allies. It doesn't work on you. Armor received, your allies give you more armor and you can generate more armor yourself if it is for you and only you, you selfish bum. Indirect damage, like damage inflicted but for bombs, poisons or whatever does damage outside your turn or indicates that it is indirect damage. Wisdom, you get more HP from combats. Prospecting, you get more drops from combats. Okay, so now that we know about stats, I can give you some recommendations on attributing stats. On intelligence, always go all in on elemental resistances. When it reaches 10 points, you go for percentage HP. If you are power farming alone, you can set some in percentage armor HP. The other ones, I don't know. On strength, you go either melee or distance. If you do not use your character to deal damage, go for HP. If you are a roach, it doesn't matter if you go for melee or distance. It is not really advised to go full-on elemental mastery here because you lose a lot of potential damage. But if you reach the max of melee or distance, you can go for that one. Or HP, I don't know, I'm not your dad. In agility, it really depends on your team. It is important to decide the order of who is gonna play first, so you distribute the initiative with your team. If you are a tank, you go for luck. If you are a melee full damager, dodge is nice. If you are a distance damager or support that is not suited to take damage for too many turns, go for dodge too. If you need to remove AP or MP from enemies or dodge those losses yourself, you go for wheel. Luck and dodge can be nice sometimes, but be wary. If you invest in both at the same time, your luck will not be enough and neither will your dodge. Remember, if you are solo farming mobs, initiative maxing can be a good strategy. On fortune, the decision depends on your role and the dungeon or mobs. If you're a damager that goes distance or has poor mobility, go for crit hit to 20 and then full-on crit mastery. If you can reliably get backs, go for rear mastery. If you find yourself fighting at the brink of death every combat or you happen to choose Sakura as your class, you go for berserker mastery. If you're tanking, always go for block and then go with whatever resistance is good for the mobs you are fighting. Healing mastery if you're a healer, of course. And on major, well, it really depends on what you need. I will always advise going for AP when you get your first major point, that is at level 25. Then it really depends on your class, role, and build. Go with whatever seems nice. And that's it. Those are my tips for spending attribution points. What about equipment, you say? I don't know. Building a character can be complex. Just remember to build your character for certain ranges of levels. Like starting from level 20, you change your equipment every 15 levels. Also, remember, using the encyclopedia that you can open with the E key. Really useful. In my time, you had to open a web page. Okay, I believe that's everything for this section. Let's go into the next one.
I summon Pot of Greed to draw 3 additional cards from my deck!
That's not what it does.
Roll my dice! That is what it does!
So, yeah. Wakfu has a deck system. Beware, it is not a card game though. Here you can equip different spells. You have a space to equip up to 12 active spells and 6 passives that you unlock with levels. You can mix and match different combinations between elemental spells, neutral spells, and passives, trying to find synergies, especially between the passive components. As you can observe, every passive changes the gameplay of the class you are playing. Some passives are needed to play a certain role and can destroy or make strategies, so be careful observing the pros and cons. Always read the effects and the descriptions. Also, if you are playing Pandawa, the passives only have positive components because the panda hasn't been reworked and goes by the old mechanics. Then you have the active spells that are divided between elemental and neutral. The elemental spells are your main source of damage, and you will probably spend the majority of your AP in these spells. Try to limit yourself to 2 elements to make your building process easier. Although in some cases, some elements bring important utility that you can use even if you don't build that elemental mastery. The neutral spells are majoritarily about utility. Sometimes you will bring 1, sometimes you will bring 5. It really depends on the class and your build. Yeah, I know it is not that useful of a tip, but a lot of the fun in this game is the building and creation of strategies, and I don't want players to just follow a meta blindly, so experiment and suffer your way up. That's what these types of games are for, right? Spend time, have fun, and talk to new people. Also, before I forget, on your spells here, you have the mechanic that your character has. Read it, that's your homework. Now I'm moving into the next important point, that is...
You know what's crazy? This is good, bro. This is good. But why not put this energy into a job or something? Like
RuneScape has it, a lot of MMOs do. Here in this game, the job system is as boring and as rewarding as you would expect. You have to allocate a lot of time to level up the profession that you want with easy recipes and then spend a large amount of time gathering the resources for anything that you want to craft, to use or sell. Okay, well, actually, there are two types of jobs, gatherer and artisan. If you want to level up a gatherer job, like farmer or miner, you have to collect resources from the world. Professions like lumberjack, trapper, herbalist, and farmer are affected by the ecosystem that is controlled by the same players. So if you want to collect wheat, pray that it is not extinct. If it is, you can buy seeds from NPCs or in the market and control the environment. Professions like miner and fisherman are different in the sense that the natural resources respawn after a set amount of time. They are nice in the sense that you don't need to plant anything, but if there are more people collecting the same resource, it might get a little infuriating. In the same gatherer professions, you can also craft materials with your resources to gain XP faster or to craft something. Then, how do you get levels in the artisan professions, you will ask? Well, crafting, of course. Whenever you level up gathering jobs, it is nice to spend the resources on an artisan job. Why? Because professions like tailor, jeweler, etc. can be used to craft good equipment, and you can always sell stuff to generate money. Crafting is an activity that you can always do to rack up some money that you can use to equip yourself, buy rare stuff, or even buy upgrades that you can use for customs. More importantly, the booster pack that lets you level up faster and get more drops. Also, use the hero system in the Roblox server. I won't say what jobs are good to make money because I think that every profession can get you into a selling niche. You just need to know what gathering jobs are important with what artisan jobs. For bakery, you need herbalist or farmer. For chef, you need fisherman and trapper. For handyman, you need lumberjack and every other gathering job. For jeweler, you need miner and fisherman for some reason. For leather dealer, you need to be crazy because they use monster drops. For tailor, you need farmer. For armorer, you need miner. And for weapon master, you need lumberjack. So yeah, you can try and go for 3 professions or go and max every profession to become the ultimate craftsman. Oh yeah, if you level up every gathering job to level 100, you get a cool ring that lets you get more resources. Neat, right? Remember, there are ways to get more resources per collection: tools, pets, and consumables. It is a nice investment to get low-level pets if you can afford them. The tools are nice to get some levels, and the consumables are always nice. Also, there is a special event that triggers randomly, the Captain Acha. It is a random bow meow that appears when you are collecting resources. It will have 3 random numbers on its side, and you will have a couple more on your side. You need to use the spell that is given to you and select your numbers that are the same as the captain. Then you will obtain 40 of the resources. Really nice. If you fail, you will have a higher chance to encounter the event again and will get less resources until you beat the captain. And I think that's it for the jobs. Scary stuff. Then what's next? Oh yeah. So yeah, this is that kind of game. You have to expect long farming sessions and stuff that is not that fun sometimes. But for me, it has been a good ride, and I haven't even played a lot of the high-level content yet. I usually play for a couple months, then I stop, then I come back. I would be lying if I say that this game is always fun or it doesn't have its problems, but at least it gets updated and has a decent amount of players for an MMO this old. So I hope you give it a try, and then you can comment on your experience or not, I don't know. If you're a player, you can share tips for new players too. So that was everything for today. Remember that I'm Q and I will be making content about Wakfu. I am a slow worker though, so sorry if I take a while making videos. At least I stream quite often, especially in Spanish. So I hope you have a great day, evening or night. See ya!